A good afternoon to you, our viewer, wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to Women on the Front Line, a show that we host every Saturday right here on Civic Space TV. My name is Monica Moding, and the show is about showcasing women who are successful in governance, highly effective women in governance, in politics, in other spaces that they are making their contribution in breaking barriers as women. It is not just a show for Uganda here, it's a show for the Great Lakes region. I would like to welcome you and also just to remind you to follow us whenever you can, like our show and share it with your friends, family, especially those that you know can be inspired with our story here, because in here we'll be having several women who will be influencing and also highly inspirational. So someone can pick a story, one or two lessons that can inspire them in their personal journey. So I would like to welcome you so much. Thank you for taking off time to be with us here. And I always remind you to be here every other Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m. On the set today, we shall be discussing young women in politics, how they have broken the barriers to participate in politics in their political parties and in the mainstream politics of Uganda and in the Great Lakes. And today I'm highly privileged to welcome on set very young women, inspirational, participating in politics in their political parties. That's an area that we need to pick lessons from. And on set I have Honourable Adeke Anna. She's going to share her story with us, and her story will also inspire us in discussing whatever we shall be discussing around this topic of women, young women participating in politics. Anna, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Did I harass you a lot in coming to this program?
Not at all. It's so cool. I saw when the show premiered.
Yes.
And I couldn't wait to be here. I was just counting down. I said, no, I'm also a guest on that show. So thank you very much for bringing me here.
Thank you so much. At some point I was feeling like I harassed her so much. She's my younger sister. And sometimes, you know, you can't refuse a request from an older sister.
It's hard to say no.
It is hard to say no. For those of you who want to know more about Anna Adeke, she was in youth politics before. She started her life as a guild president, I think, at Makerere University, at a time when it was very difficult for a woman actually to win a guild presidency. I think we last heard from Sarah Kajingo. Then after Sarah, maybe you remind us.
Susan Abo.
Then Abba. Abba came before you or after?
After.
Abba came after you. So you broke barriers at university, and then you joined as a youth member of parliament, national, and now she's serving as a district woman member of parliament for Soroti. Welcome again, Anna. And just for my selfish reasons, Anna is somebody who replaced me on the youth seat, the same seat, and then I also moved to a district seat. Now we are here. Yeah. It's good to see you and to know you are doing very well. You have not put me to shame. And especially that area of youth, you know, when you won the female youth seat, I had just finished that particular part, and I'm coming from one region. It looked very difficult for somebody from the same region. So we can say God was with you.
Very much. He was very present, and really at the head of everything, at the front of everything.
You're very welcome. I would like first to introduce our other guests. We have a very inspirational young woman that some of you may not know, but our reasoning is to bring many more people that are doing a lot commendable work in their spaces as women. We have Remmie on the set, Remmie Lubowa, right at the extreme end with the lovely pink.
Thank you.
Remmie is a deputy leader in the Women's League of the National Unity Platform Party, the newest party on the block. She will tell us what they are up to. Welcome back from wherever you are doing something that you were sharing. How is that work going? Say hello to the viewers and tell us where you have been. They are doing a lot of work.
Good afternoon, my ladies. I'm happy to meet you. I've been on the field looking engaging more women in the cause, because I believe we can get more women down there to come and bring them on the top.
You mean the new party in particular?
Yes, no party. And I think other women will also follow that link. And we go down there and we bring more women up.
Wow.
Because I was picked from somewhere. I'm a fashion designer by profession, but now I'm in politics. This is first time in politics, first time party, so I'm just saying I'm blessed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, Remmie is doing a lot of work. They're building their party structures, and the party has trusted her with that responsibility. Yes, you have to talk to potential supporters and also interest more women to your party if you have good policies for the women.
Of course, I'm coming for
yeah,
you.
so since we are discussing multi-party politics today, it's good to have you here as we listen to Honourable Adeke's story. And of course, with the shining white there is our usual face. It's not her first time to be on this civic space. We have Rebecca Turyatunga there. She's a young woman doing a lot in civic space, but very interested in politics. So she's here to make a contribution, but also to be inspired, because I know eventually we want to inspire as many women as possible to join politics. So she's one of those candidates to be inspired. And either she will end up with Adeke or Remmie there, or in the other side. I don't know, where do you belong? Independent, NRM leaning, or FDC
leaning.
like Adeke here?
NRM leaning,
Yes.
and minding other people's business.
Yes, Turyatunga is NRM leaning, and I tend to think I'm also NRM independent, I think, because of my ideology here and there. So I want to welcome everyone, and I know we are going to have a good conversation. We'll start with Anna, who is really inspiring all of us today. And Anna's story must inspire other people. And we would like to hear from Anna how it all started. Because you know, politics is not something that you'll just jump from nowhere and start doing it. I believe it's a calling. I always tell people politics is also a calling. But there are those who are also inspired through certain things. Situations can inspire you. Some other person's work can inspire you. Or even an event in your life. Or some people are just born to do it. And you are set apart. And all you are waiting for is an anointing, like the David thing. So how did it start for you?
Okay, well, thank you so much, Monica. It's such a privilege to be here with you. I'd like to thank all your viewers and encourage all of you to hit the subscribe button.
Yeah.
Please subscribe to this channel. Make sure
like
you always get updates so that you can follow our discussions and be inspired. So my name is Adeke Anna Ebaju.
Yeah.
I come from Soroti District. A lawyer, and I'm a leader.
Yes.
I really would like to start my story.
I call myself feminist leader.
A feminist leader.
Are you one?
Yes, I'm a feminist. I identify as a feminist.
For some people, actually, before you leave that point, they think being a feminist is a derogatory term. They don't believe in being a feminist. What is your...
I think that people need to take time and gain knowledge
on that issue,
on what really feminism is about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because many people that trash feminism, really, it comes from a point of ignorance and not knowing, misunderstanding totally about what feminism is about.
Yes.
So my politics is actually feminist politics because I identify as a social justice activist.
Yes.
I would like to see a more equal world, more opportunities available
for women and
men. And not having women always being the ones that are disadvantaged by culture, by politics, the distribution of power, and all these things that define society.
Yes.
So my story really has its beginning. It's really the grace of God, frankly speaking. I don't think if it was of my own accord, I would have chosen to be a politician. Because growing up, I always saw myself as an academic. I always saw myself as someone that would eventually become a jurist and eventually work in the judicial system. That's what I always saw myself as. But God always impressed a burden for people in my heart. And I constantly found myself being chosen to lead, being chosen to lead, being asked to lead, right from the very primary levels of my upbringing, like in school. from primary school where I was a head girl, and it was just an appointed position for me.
Always.
Yes, but I became a head girl when I was in primary 6, and it was really an appointed position. I didn't even offer myself.
Wow.
I was just appointed. Right through my high school, all of it really being appointed, that I am just one among the many in the crowd, and, you know, God singles me out to be a leader.
Yes.
When I went to the university, I went to Makerere on government scholarship.
So you were like a boat. They call them, you know, academic giants. That's what my son says.
That's a slang that we use. But
of course.
yeah. So I got 25 points and I went to Makerere to do law.
Wow.
And I was resident at Africa Hall. And when I went to Makerere, I really was determined to get my degree and get an opportunity to further my studies. Because this is what my parents used to encourage me to do. My father used to encourage me, you know, you have to get a PhD when you're still young. So I really did see myself as a blooming academic to further my qualifications, gain knowledge, and eventually venture into being a professor or an expert in a particular field. Where, you know, I would go and make my contribution. But you know, God has a divine way He arranges things.
He like weaves your life. Rhoda has just launched her book.
Exactly.
And in it she was saying, my life is just a weaving.
Exactly.
So, yeah, sometimes leaders live a life which is like...
it's woven. Because you are clay in the hands of a potter. And so it was just so divinely done that my friends were all politicians in one way or the other. I got a destiny helper that I would really identify him as a destiny helper. A young man in my class called Jeremiah Keamwanje. Then he was GP. Now he's NUP. He's actually a counselor.
Jeremiah, wherever you are.
Such a pivot. Jeremiah, wherever you are.
You are
I really hope you get to watch this show. But he knows it. Because I think I wouldn't tell my story without putting him at the center of it when it was beginning. Because I firmly believe that God used him. So Jeremiah was in my class. I was among, you know, top of my class and on the dean's list with a CGPA of 3.8 in my first year, 3.9 in my second year. So, and for law school, that's really high.
Yeah, very high. You can ask me that.
For law school, that's really high.
Yeah.
And so Jeremiah walked up to me one day and told me, Anna, I think you can become a guild president of this university.
Just like that.
And I go like, whoa, no way. Why? I'm here just to study. I want to graduate on dean's list, maybe get a first class.
I want to go back for further studies.
Exactly. I want to go straight to do my master's abroad maybe. So he told me, no, you should give this a shot. I can train you. So we started to train. He started to you know, give me books to read.
What? You actually trained for it? Wow, so preparation.
It's key. It's key. So we started to read generally about politics and its nature. I remember he gave me a book called Machiavelli. Because, you know, you need to know if you're going into a field, what kind of players are there and how everyone plays their game. So he taught me very many things about university politics. And he told me, I'm doing this because I think you have a good heart. And I've seen you and how you speak about national causes, how you speak about access to maybe social services in class. I've seen you.
Wow.
So I think that your social justice activism can be sharpened more with your politics. So you should really become, so I was a budding politician then. I contested. And oh, God favored me so mightily. God favored me so greatly that I didn't, number one, it was so easy to mobilize resources from my party.
That was what? FDC?
All the way. It's never changed.
It has always been FDC,
It's always been that way.
Yeah.
So it was so easy to mobilize resources from my party. It was so easy to get support from the university. Students just saw my poster. Some people say they never met me. They just saw my poster and they felt so encouraged and they came to vote me.
Wow.
Some only learned about who I was much later in life. So
I guess.
That's where my journey began.
Yeah.
At Makere. It had been close to maybe 8 to 10 years since Makere had a guild president who was a female. Right about from 2005, and it was now 2013. So since Susanna Bo's time, every female guild president or candidate that tried to contest had so much backlash.
I don't know where Susanna Bo is now.
They were so targeted. I think she works at State House. The last I checked, she was working at State House. I've not kept track of her. But prior to me running in 2012, 2013, there was a young lady called Namirembe Liz that ran for guild president, and she didn't make it. She ran as an independent. I found this girl so courageous, because running as an independent in such a university and facing all the patriarchy and all the insults targeted to you, and you because you are a woman. So she went through that, but she didn't win. And so I felt like she had lit a candle, which I needed to sustain. So I made sure, I said, no, Namirembe Liz has run for guild president. It's such an opportunity that people have actually interfaced with what it means to have a female candidate in this race.
Okay.
So let me seize the opportunity when it's still hot and go
bring
for
her
it.
on.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
So I ran. I was the only female with about 8 gentlemen. I ran, and
Becky's saying, wow.
Somewhere in between those elections, I remember going to Lumumba Hall, where there was a candidate. The NRM candidate was from Lumumba Hall, and then the boys started to pelt us with stones.
Ooh, wow.
They didn't want us to access Lumumba. And then I remember going to Mitchell Hall, and one of the candidates again was from Mitchell Hall, the one from DP, and I was literally lifted out of Mitchell Hall, like physically lifted to leave the hall. It was a scaffold that I lost some of the buttons on my shirt. Yeah, because they
could have undressed you.
I wanted to make a point. I said, no, this is a public university. This hall of residence is open to all of us. And so I will come here and campaign. I'll ask people to vote me. And they must be allowed to hear me. They must be allowed to hear my story. So I refused to leave when they asked me to leave.
Wow.
I insisted. I said, no, I am staying here and people must hear me.
Wow.
Yeah, so it didn't end well, but my point was made. And I know that so many of the students in those halls of residence voted me.
Wow.
Because
you exhibited
they
courage
liked,
as well.
Exactly. So it's important to be courageous in your journey.
There is always intimidation, I believe.
It's got to be there.
Yeah.
And for the women that are watching, it will be targeted towards you because you're a woman.
Yeah.
Simply because in their minds, you're the weaker sex. So it's easier to control you. It's easier to make you afraid. It's easier to scare you. So first,
especially when you're in the male space.
Exactly. They will target your physical existence so that they emotionally drain you. Exactly.
Wow. I think your story is so inspiring. You are really breaking barriers up to today. I don't know, Remmie.
Yes,
you are in a new party. Does anything strike a bell in your mind with Anna's story? Of course, Noop is new. What are your experiences being a woman in that party, patriarchy? How are you breaking those barriers in there?
Thank you. What I would say, I'll relate on that space of saying, you don't deserve this position. You are either this. The challenge we face, in most cases they say, we want people who are highly educated. We want men, because I'm on an EC member of the
Executive Committee.
Yeah. Executive Committee, yes, and this one, Electoral Commission, I'm on it. So they were like, now why put her? She doesn't have any background in politics. To get this space, it has been tough. Because they could always tell you, you don't have any background in politics, you're still young, you can't lead the women. Those are the challenges I faced in NOP. But with a stronghold of our leaders, I will say my president, he's good. He could always say, you know what, you can go for it. Because I didn't meet him accidentally. He never knew me, but I knew him. We started in Bobby Die Hard, that was music side. I came like a secretary, finance, fighting for space. That's how I started leadership. From there, men could say, no, I can use this word, Kawala Keitachi, you know, those kind of Kawala Keitachi, who does she call herself?
Why her?
Why her? You know, we could go from Sawa, Firebase Arm and Bobby Die had time for fighting for space. So I really thank you for your story. It's really encouraging. And one thing I'm promising this nation that I'm going to stand tall. I will not bow down.
To be counted.
To be counted.
Yeah.
And to pull other women, because with such kind of story, everyone goes through that. We don't have a clear space.
Yes.
We don't have a smooth
Everyone
road.
has their own experience.
Yes.
They say politics is for the thick-skinned.
Thank you.
Juna, Rebecca, are you ready for that space? Because if you don't have a thick skin,
You cannot go
politics is not a go area, no, a go area for
One
you.
thing I want to ask, Anne, how have you been able to deal with the unconscious biases of people, including fellow women, and the uninformed narrative by men that women are not their own
Enemies.
yes, they're each other's enemies, which I think it comes from a perspective of being uninformed and unknowledgeable, and seeing that competition between women is normal. Because when you see men when they are competing with each other, it's natural. It's what women do.
insult each
yes,
other.
it's
They are
then when
quite
women are
professional
competing
about
with each other, they say that is a cat fight. It's not necessary. But how have you dealt with that? Also with the different sexual harassments that come from the different parties, because we very well know that all parties have that
I would
aspect.
like us to put that question in the parking lot, because it's very important for us to share those challenges. Each one of us, I think, has those challenges along the way. And I think Remmie started with that earlier on. And yeah, for her, she's still new in the system. I'm sure she's going to tell us it's the president, Loop, who inspired her, and the situation of women, probably.
Yeah. And the hospitals.
For Rebecca, I think we needed to hear what is inspiring you to come into politics. Because some people are like, no, politics is a dirty place. Why would I even join politics? Why should a woman even join, in the first place?
I think one of the reasons I believe is having trained the 4-day young leaders camp. I think I've seen a cohort of 3-4 groups. Anne would come to mentor them by that time. Yeah, there've been a lot that have gone through training of women councillors, the capacity building of them being able to join politics. But having been in the NRM campaigns, whereas it has its challenges, it has its fun moments. being in the Katesh campaigns, it was fun, and I saw the energy and the zeal and enthusiasm that youth bring on board. And I said, you know what? There are issues that we need to raise.
So you are inspired by the youth challenge. You still think there's a lot that you can.
There is a lot that we can do, but also the enthusiasm, the energy. So it woke up something in me, but also I noticed that the young women were not on the front line. A lot of young women were behind. And how do we bring them to the front line and create their own space to engage?
Okay, Rebecca, you're speaking to an audience. We are growing, and we are hoping that that audience will be inspired to join this politics, because we want more women. Politics is not a dirty game. It is the people who are in there who make it dirty. Now, we are sharing Anna's story for whoever has joined us on this conversation. Anna's story is certainly an inspiring story, especially coming from a very, difficult terrain, political party, participating as an opposition party. I think the two of you, it's always a challenge for any young person to rise through the levels, and in an opposition party, it's very, very difficult, more than in the ruling party. Would like maybe to hear from Anna how she keeps going, because usually you have a duty that drives you, a purpose to live to, maybe even a mission to accomplish. It could be within your party, it could be within the country, it could be across, the world. So for someone who is watching, do you really work towards a particular mission? Do you, it's very important for people to know who Adeke is, what is her mission. For me, it's about women. everything else is about women. That's why I joined politics. I said
Women
I'm
at
going
the
to
center of
contribute
it.
to women's issues. And so I was going to move the women's agenda in Parliament, and it kept me going up to today. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I think, like I said, there's things that are naturally you align yourself with. Right from when you start to gain consciousness, political consciousness of yourself, your environment,
yes.
appreciating the systems of this world and how they work. There's a line of thought which you choose to
align yourself with.
And for me, mine has been about social justice.
Or injustice.
And yeah, okay,
okay,
trying to achieve social justice. Social justice for the less privileged in life. And maybe that was influenced by the kind of environments that I grew up in, the kind of parenting that I had, coming from Teso sub-region, in the aftermath of the insurgency, having to see, you know, poverty-stricken families, the deaths that we have been, that we deal with, and all that the political instability and what it changed for me and for my parents, because I used to listen to them. I used to hear them speak about how, you know, the good old days used to be, how they used to access healthcare. So all these things made me feel like, oh, I need to do something. I always felt that burden in my heart. And I chose FDC because I felt that because of its values, it stood for what I believed in. Because a political party is a vehicle.
It is a vehicle.
If we are like-minded, we all board that party. And we go, at least as far as you feel like you're still
Actually, your story is very strange, because winning an election of youth when you are in FDC is a bit strange in these current times. It's almost impossible. So I don't know how you managed to make it.
Because NRM has deliberately restricted space. As you see, they continue to try to do.
You and Karuhanga, actually.
I feel that young people, my story and Karuhanga's story could maybe be an example that young people can actually freely decide. And that they have the power to do so. There were many things that were so present in our elections. The violence, the security apparatus and the deployment, and of course money.
Money is a factor everywhere.
But the message is stronger than all these things. And after all is said and done, the grace of God is important to also prove something. You know that the strength of the king is not really the power of his army. And no matter how large the army is, the king can't be defeated.
It's somewhere else.
So for me, that really encouraged me. But Monica, there are some questions that Becky posed, which I think the audience is very interested in hearing about.
Yes, we could respond to them as well. So for you, it's about the social justice issues that keep moving you. You know, a certain professor the other day was discussing the issue of ideology in our country. And he seemed to suggest that we don't have an ideology where we belong as people in politics, or even just the population, that you belong maybe to the left or to the right. Our parties are built around tribal, you know, connotations, religion, and other things. So it's very important to have this discussion to inform our viewers or listeners that it's very important to know what you are standing for in terms of ideology. If it is social justice, then you are likely to join a party that is, you know, championing issues of social justice. Maybe that's what we are picking from, Anna, but you can respond to Juna's comments.
I think Becky asked me about how I've been able to circumvent it. It all. The waters are very murky in the politics. And just like all other fields, you know, you get in here and you must get in with the knowledge or the mindset that as a woman, of course, you'll not be looked at as an equal. The first thing is that you're lesser than the men. You're weaker than the men.
Weaker sex.
And so they will want to take advantage of that. Sometimes to get their way with you, physically.
Always.
Other times to exploit you. But it
or
helps
mislead you.
It does you well. It does you well to get into this field with that mindset, so that every time you interact with these forces of patriarchy, you know exactly how to shelter your mind and your heart from them. The heart of a leader must always be guarded.
Yeah.
You must guard your heart. The Bible says guard your heart, for out of it flow issues of life.
Issues of life.
So you have to guard your heart as a leader and never let this break you. Because it's there, it's so apparent. And sometimes even people don't know that this is patriarchy being directed towards me. But also, as women, I think it's important for us, and it's timely for us to start to have conversations that regardless of where we find ourselves, either we are on different sides, if we are women, we are sisters. Let's run our race, and whoever emerges victorious has emerged victorious. That is so important. One of the pledges that I made to myself leaving the last campaign that I was in is to never derogatorily address another woman who I may find myself competing against. It's one of the most important pledges that I made to myself.
That's a very important.
And I will never do it. And I think that it's important for us as women in this political space to have that discussion with each other. And say, even if you find yourself running against another woman, you should never really have to join the many against her, abusing her feminism, abusing her status in society. Because, you know, there are so many things that are directed towards women, and the loads that we carry are huge.
It is strange sometimes in those campaigns that it's women actually who will deal with those issues. They will deal with your marriage, they will deal with your weaknesses.
That's exactly what I'm
as a woman.
trying to say.
Yeah.
Because I didn't face that so much in the youth campaign, because young people are more open-minded. They're not going to ask you for a family, they're not going to ask you for a marriage, they're not going to ask you for academic qualifications.
Those details.
But when you graduate to represent a much older audience, you know there is this cultural stratifications, all these dynamics
where you're married,
exactly.
I don't know
and you're going into that.
You.
And because we have rural communities, so we have to appreciate their way of life.
And thinking.
Their way of life, their mindsets, the things they appreciate, what they deem as responsibility, which may not be how we deem responsibility. And so I went into a campaign. I was the youngest. I was unmarried then. And
as if you are married now.
I am now. I am now. I was unmarried then.
Okay.
And I was against, of course, a much older woman. But she made it. She made it so, like, she joined everyone else to start to ask me why I'm not married. To ask me why at 28 I was not married.
For me, it was about where I was married.
To ask me why. So, it shouldn't have to be that way.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that way. And I think the women need to learn that politics, we should not be emphasizing those inequalities and those issues that put women down again, especially in circles where you're already exposed and you know that this is what we've been dealing with, patriarchy.
And it's us to teach people. It's us to teach the people that believe in us, our voters, all the rural communities. It's us to guide the narrative and say to them, we're going into a campaign, you're my agent. I don't want you to speak about the character of a woman.
Another person.
I don't want you to speak about who her husband is, what he does or what she does, or what her household looks like.
Mudslinging.
I want us to speak about what we want to do for people. I don't want us to focus on the other woman's, what we call weaknesses. Yeah? We shouldn't have to address what our voters expect us to address.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to, we have to teach them that this is how we do politics.
Yes.
We are not here to ask who's the husband of this woman
and all that.
Or how many children does she have.
As if that defines you as a leader.
No, it shouldn't.
Because even then I used to tell mine that when I go to Parliament, I will not go and sit with my husband in the same chair and then we are debating and legislating. I go alone and you have a card. So for some reason we managed to talk about that. I don't know, Remmie.
I don't know. Does that answer your question, Becky?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then that's how men say we are, you know, we have cat fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes they even reduce it to be about them. They'll say those women are struggling for a man. That's why they're like that.
Especially now, our viewers, when we are challenging women to move out to the general constituencies, because then we have been stuck in affirmative action for so long and we are not adding numbers. I would like you to comment on that issue later, but I want to hear from Remmie if in this short space of time, if there is you know, anything, any comment.
Yeah, there is a comment. You know, I'm a half Maganda, half Nubian. I'm born from Bombom.
Wow.
So people could say, how can she be the central deputy? She's not a Muganda. I was like, wow.
Politics of tribe.
Yeah.
Politics of tribe. And
Yeah.
my leader is fighting that. I was like, you guys, I grew up in Buganda. My dad was raised in Buganda. You want me to go where?
I am not going
I'm
anywhere.
not going anywhere. I have to stay here. So in most cases, I tell them, you leave the tribalism aside and don't concentrate on your opponent. Always speak your mind and what you're going to do for the people, but never concentrate on your opponent.
Of course.
Because that can mislead you, and people will never vote you because of that.
I think
You
we
never
need
know, even the lady lost to her because of that. Why isn't she married? What, you know, such kind of
There are
questions.
politics of tribe which are still deeply entrenched.
Yeah,
Rebecca comes from Shema, you know, Western Uganda, some parts of the country still deal with tribal politics. And I'm
I
glad
think if I'm staying in Barara, I have a right to be a leader in that side because that's the terrains I know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
cannot push me to go to Northern, yet I've been staying in Kampala.
Born
Born here. My mother is born here. My dad is born there. Then what should I do in Northern?
that is
Which
why
one should I run to there?
our political parties need to have an agenda.
Yeah.
If you are NRM, what is the agenda that you are going for to support? NRM stands for nationalism, Pan-Africanism. What is the other? Rule of law and democracy, socio-economic transformation. But do people associate with those ideals?
Ideas.
FDC, what does it stand for? NUP, you know. So the
Yes.
ideologies are challenging. And we are still caught up in those politics. So as women, we are battling with not just patriarchy and chauvinism wherever we are and all that discussion of, you know, but there are also the mainstream issues of politics
Yeah.
and multi-party politics.
Yeah.
But that aside, Honourable Anna, we know you've been around. This is going to be your second term. But of course, your politics stretches way back. Along the journey, I know there are some proud moments that you can share with our viewers. Because as you go along, you need to celebrate them. And the challenge is we don't document. That's why in such a space, we talk and share our story. It is often said that women don't like blowing their trumpets because we don't write, we don't document, we don't even talk about our good moments, our experiences. And the men will always, you know, document, talk about them, and everybody knows this MP is doing this and the other. I am a victim of that. I hardly document, and the moments are all over. So is there some moments you've experienced that you're proud of, that you talk about that? Yeah, because as a leader, you must contribute, you must build something, you must transform something, you know. So I would like to hear your experience.
Yes, I have. I've had very many joyous moments that I look back at with so much nostalgia, and just thank God that, you know, every victory that I have registered has been joyous for me.
Yeah.
Because it's always been very narrow.
It's a battle. Yeah.
And you know, looking at the struggle you have to go through an election, a campaign process up until the election, when eventually at the end of it with a victory, it's just so beautiful. You don't look at the
Forget
injuries.
the struggles.
Yeah, you don't look at the injuries you have sustained. You just now think about the victory. It's like, you know, the joy of a mother holding a baby. It's no longer about the labor pains.
Yeah,
Yeah,
quickly.
it's just that the baby has come and the baby is alive.
Yeah.
So, I think also some of the achievements that I did register in my career, where my journey began, are really at the time I was guild president. I did everything within my power to make sure there was no student strike.
Oh,
Because
you
of
never
how
had
messed up
any?
we didn't have any.
Wow.
One of the things that stood out for me during my campaigns was that many men, many of my male colleagues, used to tell me, I don't think you can lead a strike. You're so weak. You're so... Well, at the back of my mind, I always knew I didn't want a strike. Because I knew what a strike would mean. It meant students would be in police
some
cells.
would be killed.
Exactly, some would be injured. Students have died before in those standoffs with police. Property is destroyed. So the inconvenience of it would be great. Although, of course, it's a good center of mobilization. It's good for activism, and I'm an activist. But I thought so much about all those things. So what I did was always to try and prevent a student strike. When it was about tuition 60%, I was always negotiating with the university council. And yeah, by really the grace of God, we didn't have any student strike. We just had a staff strike.
I think it defines women generally. Women
I think that is what women leadership would, you would rather stay away from areas of conflicts that would cause so much loss
and havoc to the people.
If it's possible to settle it and make sure, you know, it's a win-win, you do it. I think also I did leave a very good, powerful trend at my career. I think since my guild presidency, every subsequent campaign has had a female candidate.
Yeah, actually, that's very true.
Subsequent.
So we have sanitized Makerere University.
Exactly.
We've neutralized.
Exactly. So maybe they've not, my young ladies have not been able to register success, but I think that it is good enough that every election has a female voice. You know, if people continue to see women they're running for these things, it's going to become more normal to actually vote women and, you know, trust them with this, with the capacity to lead at such levels.
How about in the last parliament? For the girl child, I know you did so much. You are just being a bit reserved talking about these things.
Or really, on
you know, women hardly talk about themselves. That is very true.
I think I registered a lot of success on the floor for the girl child, especially in terms of sexual violence and sexual harassment
across the country.
And I think we had such a good opportunity because the speaker in the chair was a feminist herself. So it made it really easy to front the agenda for young women and girls. One of the motions I did present was about sexual violence in the aftermath of, you know,
the Makerere thing.
The reports about the Chibuli secondary school headmaster and the multiple pregnancies and the girls and forced abortions and all these things. I brought a motion to, you know, have schools made safer, to investigate, of course with the support of the speakers. We did register success. But politically, I think that my vote on the 102 amendment really makes me proud. I think I need to say this, that after all is said and done and sanity returns to our country, we must have a truth telling of these processes and speak truth and bring back all those leaders.
Yes.
And have conversations with them as to why they chose to betray our country at such a
time when it was most needed.
So critical. We need to have a truth-telling process about the 2005 amendment of the term limits and then also the age limits. Because these are two amendments that have greatly hurt our country and hurt our constitutionalism and hurt our progress towards achieving democracy and transition peacefully in power. So I don't think that the leaders who made those decisions should be let go just like that. I think we need to have conversations with your colleagues on Monica in the NRM who chose to amend the 102B. Because honestly, we are where we are because we failed to take a firm stand at the time. Ugandans needed it most to take a firm stand.
Honourable, we shall be discussing that issue. 26 years of Uganda's constitution, 59 years of independence. This is the whole week for that conversation, and those are the issues, whether we still have a constitution or not. That's a debate for another day. But I want to just hear from my two younger sisters there, because leadership is about making impact wherever you are. You may not be in politics, but wherever you are, you're creating change. Yes. I know that I'm very interested. As for you, Rebecca, you are preparing for leadership, but I know you are having some work you're doing in terms of building that space, changing so much. Maybe just a comment on what Honourable is saying, and then maybe Honourable in waiting, the new party. I saw the women in Noop trying to make their voice visible the last time, but I think police came after them with tear gas and many things. I was
the only person who survived to parliament.
Hey, you ended up in parliament?
Yes.
What are some of the things you are doing in the Women's League in building that party? Maybe you might be interested and we join.
No, it's still a call upon.
Yeah,
it's still a call.
It's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
So you're still building the structures.
Yeah, we're building the structures, taking on our offices, which is active. You know, it's a baby party. 2 months after launching it, it's election. So we're still stabilizing.
You actually
everything.
surprised Uganda and the world
Yeah.
because the output you got was really something.
Huge and massive.
It was
Yeah,
huge
so
and
was-
massive.
Now we're just organizing ourselves first.
Yeah. So you'll be spending a lot of time trying to build the structures.
Yes.
Please build for us an effective women's league
We are going
and
to
put
do
up
that.
systems and policies. Yes, Juna.
Honourable's story is inspiring, but what it shows you, it's a matter of mentorship, which we lack for the young women. You see, she's talking about from primary. Those are skills that are rare to acquire within 2 years.
Yeah.
You cannot just wake up and say, I have acquired skills, I'm going to be a leader. Whoa!
True.
No, she has seen things from primary level that have led her to where she is. So how do we mentor young women from primary to take up leadership positions? And also, as the leaders in these spaces, how do we push them out of their comfort zone? How do we change mindsets of young women to be able to speak up for themselves in whatever leadership position they are having, whether it's
Courage.
politics, whether it's banking, whether it's engineering, so that we see a different narrative. You see, what you see is what you believe. You cannot wake up and just make a house plan without seeing it somewhere. You have to envision it. Most young women have seen Kadaga as a speaker, so they believe they can be a speaker.
as well.
They've seen Honourable Adeke as a guild president. They can believe they can be a guild president.
Very profound.
Yes, there is need for mentorship of young women, and not this just coming, oh, I've come to talk to you. Share your sad stories, share your gains, share how you've gotten even the money to be able to run for a campaign, because we very well know that the economic situation of women in Uganda is so bad. They are not able to own property, most of them. Or if they have the little money, imagine a woman in Kampala standing for elections and they cannot even afford land. They are not going to be able to get these loans. Yet men yet men can go to banks
And borrow.
and go for a campaign, and then in their first term of office they're paying off these debts because they have collateral. But what do the women have? How do the women build a movement where they can own property and be able to access even financing?
Wow. Our
Yes.
viewers, we are having an interesting conversation here with my powerful team, Honourable Adeke Anna. Of course, every young woman listening to her, any other woman would be inspired in their journey. We are talking politics, and we are trying to understand how these young women are breaking barriers in their political, spaces, in their multi-party politics, and, the parties that they belong in. But also we want to go further in this space to engage and inspire other young women, not just in politics, but also you can excel as a leader in whichever sector that you are in. But today we are focusing on a conversation around her life, her journey, and hoping that someone out there can pick 1 or 2 lessons. And we are talking politics, breaking the barriers in politics and being able to join. We've just discussed the issue of mentorship. I think that people have not appreciated the issue of mentorship generally, and I don't know what parties are doing. Are there specific, processes? Where I'm coming from, I don't think there is a specific structure or system where they say, okay, now you young people, you come here, we are teaching you how they do politics, how you're supposed to go about it. There are study groups here and there, but there is no system. I don't know what your comment is, ladies, about that in our political spaces. Does FDC have a safe space for young people to grow in politics?
Well, I think it's really solely our duty to define that area, because it's something that the people ahead of us didn't define so well.
Yeah.
But I think what I've learned is that mentorship is also, the greater burden is on the mentee. You have to be intentional that you need to be mentored. Because a mentor is not going to look for you. you're
You have
going
to look for the mentor.
Look for a mentor. So there's nothing new under the sun, as the Bible says. You are not redefining the will of life. Where we are going, people have been, especially us in politics. We are coming to an area that people have been. We are young women. Think about the Rhoda Kalemas and what they had to go through.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, they've been around.
I hope
Think
you've got
about
her book. She just
Winnie
launched her
Matembe.
book
Yes,
recently.
I got her book. Think about Winnie Byanyima. Think about Matembe. They've been there. There's nothing.
Ogwal,
Matembe's story is so rich. There's nothing she has not faced. She faced the cultural patriarchy. She felt the patriarchy in the party. From the own chief executive himself to her own colleagues. She has seen it and she has written extensively about it.
Yeah, she has, I think, 3 books or 4 already.
So where we want to go is an area that many women have gone.
I've already been.
They've already been there.
Yeah.
We need to learn from them so we don't make the same mistakes that they made. Or we need to learn from them so that we are well equipped when situations come our way.
Okay.
We have every armory we need for that battle.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to meet a certain, patriarch in the party who's very wealthy, who wants to fund you, but wants to sleep with you, wants to abuse you, take advantage of you, you know what to arm yourself with. Because you have already heard from people that have been there.
Very important.
So you're very, very knowledgeable before you go there. This is really the case for all of us, men and women across the board, young people that are going into politics. Because people have been there. We are not as it was so many years ago. I mean, what the challenges that NUP is facing and the members of parliament who are incarcerated is a story that we have seen before, We saw Dr. Besigye at the inception of multi-party politics in our country, what he went through, what 2001 was like, having a campaign being conducted and, a candidate being nominated when he's in prison, the charges of rape being slapped on him.
Wow.
We've seen it, He entered the Guinness Book of Records as the most arrested man, most prosecuted
Candidate or
man.
what? Yes.
Yes. So it is something us who are younger are privileged to be in because we have experiences from which to learn.
Yeah.
We know that this is how the regime operates. We know that this is how parties operate. We know that these are the dynamics of politics. That every time you're in a space with a man, he's thinking, I'm more superior to this woman. He's thinking, I have to show her she's subordinate to me.
And I think even women, we give it away. We give our powers to them more often.
So, you have to be alert. Your antenna have to be very alert so that you can read it and push it back when it comes your way.
So do you have a mentor yourself?
Yes, I do. I do have mentors that I speak with and that I share with. And interestingly, most of them are not in mainstream politics. Yeah. At some point, especially when I was in parliament, I figured out that I needed to strengthen myself, the individual, so that the leader would be stronger.
Yeah,
and
very
so
important.
I took individual mentors that would, help me build my confidence, help me gain more self-knowledge about myself and my capacity.
Oh,
Yeah.
So actually the lesson is you're having mentors. It's not necessarily in the field that you have. You can actually have a mentor in the field that you want to be strengthened. I think, that's the point she makes.
So that you build resilience.
Oh, yes. Because if you know something, but there's an area which you are not strong enough, then you look out for a mentor to help you grow in that area. It's very important for any woman, anyone in leadership, wherever you are. I think that having a mentor in life is very important, but also picking the type of person and being there as a mentor to identify those persons.
Then how about the resources? How do we as women get the resources? Because during campaigns you have to make posters, you have to go to the radio in case it's late at night. If it's at night and you're from campaigning and you want to go home, you have to get security, which you have to pay for. How do we mobilize resources? How do we get finances? Even when you're in parliament, how do you get finances to say, I need to help my community, maybe educate certain people, such things? How do we as women mobilize finances?
I think the most
It's
important
a broad
strength
question.
about mobilizing finances
Yeah.
is courage. You should never give up, because there are many doors you'll go to and they get shut in your face.
Yeah.
But you should never give up.
But there always has to be somewhere to begin.
Yeah, the grace is very
Juna
sufficient.
is asking about that because she's still in that.
You know, the conversation about resources is different for all of us.
It is.
Depending on where you are in life. For me, I started out in Makere, so I made a few friends from a young age. It may be different for from a young woman who
has no job yet.
It may be different for her. It may be different for a young woman who's moving maybe from selling tomatoes and wants to be a counselor.
Yeah.
But what you should do is always understand what you have. What capital do you have? And I mean social capital as a person. Because that is where you start from. That is your starting point. You have to sell your dream. And you must get ready for people to bash your dream and not believe in it. But you as the vision bearer must always believe in it.
I think the listeners, viewers need to understand this particular issue further than that. Maybe when we return from the break, we are going to return to that discussion of mobilizing for resources, because it's a big question. It's a big question for any woman intending to join politics. And I think sharing experiences here and there is very, very important on how you start with your individual capital, build your social capital and others. And I think, thank you, Honourable, for that. But when we return, we shall start from there and try to share experience around that. I have my own experience. I think Anna has hers. And Juna are just beginning and Remmie in that journey. But there will always be a way out. So let's go for a break, and when we return, we shall get back to that conversation before we wind up. Welcome back, our viewers. Thank you for being with us here. This is a chat, a conversation on women on the front lines, a program in which we discuss women's contribution in governance in Uganda, but across the Great Lakes region. And we are here this afternoon with none other than Honourable Adeke Anna Ebaju. Her story is inspiring, so we are using her story to have a conversation around different issues affecting women in politics and how we break barriers to be in these spaces. Other times we shall bring other women that are in other sectors, but today we are focusing on women in politics, and particularly this young age group. This one is younger than me generally, and I'm wondering how they are making it, and I'm inspired as well. So we broke off when we were talking about resource mobilization, and your team, certainly. How have you got here? I think for me, when I was joining politics, I depended a lot on my individual capital as well. I did not have anywhere to start. I didn't have a godfather in any way, but at least I was working. I was working somewhere, earning a little salary, and I knew through that small salary I can be able to prepare small info sheets, or a letter at least, or a call, or an SMS. So I ran my campaign around SMS, calls, and all that, and somehow I was able to win an election for youth politics without a godfather, because usually it is assumed that if you don't have a godfather, then you cannot make it. But I think we have to rely on our individual capacity and strength, because resourcing begins with you.
Yes.
There will be never a point where you'll have somebody already, maybe very few, where people come and say, now Adeke, go and contest in the other place, and the money is here. Yeah, such cases are available, but the majority will usually start with you.
Yes.
So I don't know, I think Anna, you already commented on that particular issue, but resources requires a bigger discussion. We shall come back here on financing. There are basics that perhaps we can share with our viewers. Maybe we conclude this discussion by asking Honourable Adeke what her concerns, what her hopes, aspirations for the country are. Yeah, because she's in parliament at national level. Are you planning to stand for president sometime soon? Yeah.
My aspirations for this country
Yes.
are that we actually solve the major political question that we have, and we do it peacefully, and that is the issue of transition. And that is, for me, the most significant as a leader, as a leader in the opposition, as a Ugandan that would like to see a peaceful transition actually take place in our country, because we have had all the opportunities that the Constitution provided us to have peaceful transition, and we've denigrated all of them. We've taken them out, we've torn the Constitution apart, and so now we're just left to fate.
Wow.
We don't have a term limit, we don't have an age limit.
Wow.
And I would like that the peaceful transition would take place soon, and that when it takes place, our politics as a country is demilitarized. You see, if you do a comparative analysis, I think in the region, maybe Kenya would be the best.
Example?
Example with constitutionalism and democracy and rule of law. Because you have an actual judiciary that puts its foot down. It's
sometimes
done that for the BBI situation. It did that for an attempt to militarize the politics, because I know that their president tried to make the army get in charge of Kenya Meat Commission, and it was declared unconstitutional.
Wow.
And so we have a country where everything is militarized. Now the army is in parliament, the army is doing contracts and competing.
Building health centers.
The army is everywhere in our politics. Every government department has a military attaché.
Yes.
From ESO, from CMI, and from the mainstream army. They all have positions in every ministry and government department. They have to be there.
Wow.
So you realize that it's an entire captured system. And it's not good for our future as a country. It's not good for our future, our democracy as a country. So, for me, that is the most important, that is the most profound.
In concern.
I recognize that I'm in parliament, and parliament can be
a space,
an avenue to deliver many of the changes that we need in our country. But I am also not blinded by the fact that Parliament has so many numbers that belong to the NRM, which can so easily be coerced to do the wrong thing. Right now, the discussion on the right to bail is being
vulgarized.
It's taking center stage. And I see many of my NRM colleagues, at least many of the ones I respect, have taken a stand already. I hope that it will be the same situation right until the end, and they will not be forced to change their minds, because I can't imagine what it would do for our freedoms, our individual rights and freedoms, if we further restricted the right to bail. First of all, there's no right to bail, it's a right to apply for bail.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how they need to restrict it. They're trying to restrict it further. So Parliament is a good space, but it also is not a reliable space. I must say that for Ugandans. Yeah, it's not a reliable space, because you know how politics has been run in our country. That the NRM will manipulate its numbers and, actually pay off members to make wrong decisions. It's not the first time. So it's very vulgar, it's distasteful, but it is what's happening in our country.
Yeah.
So my aspirations for my country, I really would like to see a new government. I've never seen any.
I don't know about Rebecca.
Never seen any, but I would like that new government to be more just and more democratic. And more tolerant to the opposition. I think that what we have faced in the opposition really informs us. And I firmly believe that if the opposition gets into power, we should never forget where we've come from, because it has been a very painful experience
as a country.
A painful experience of 30 years of speaking, of dissenting and going against the tide. It's not easy.
It is not.
Because we've lost people, we've lost careers, families have been orphaned, livelihoods have been lost.
Yeah.
I say this with so much pain, because I know what those that made it a point to navigate against the tide, to swim against the tide, have gone through in all these years of existence of the NRM. It has restricted space. For people in business who are trying to identify with the opposition, They cut short their businesses. The taxman came and slapped them with costs. They tried to curtail them.
I think this conversation is not for you only, Honourable. I don't know. It is a conversation for all of us. Yeah, the concern for our country.
Our aspirations.
Our aspiration.
I would really like to see a more just
women.
government that is going to give space to all the players.
Yes, yes.
And not try to restrict and make it impossible. This country is ours. The
It's a
future is
concern.
ours.
Yes.
They are our children. They are our natural resources. We should not be seeking to enrich ourselves as the governing class, as the elite class, and say we're going to get rich at the expense of people. When you see the evictions in the Albertine Graben, you see that the people who should have actually benefited are not benefiting because some rich individuals went there and fraudulently acquired land and now are being compensated by the OPM.
Yes.
You see? So the injustice is so painful.
Yes. It's a conversation I would like to throw back to the viewers. It is a concern for every Ugandan.
Every Ugandan.
So every Ugandan will always have an aspiration. Rebecca, what for you, certainly going forward, what is your concern as a young woman about our future as a country, as a Great Lakes region, East Africa? What's going on around us?
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you. The NRM says securing our future.
Wow. Which future?
But what is the future for the youth? And will they be able to retire gracefully? I'm looking at, we have the energy to work right now. 10 years, 20 years from now, is it me sticking to power because I have not yet acquired enough property to take me through adulthood? And for me, I want to see a future where youth are assured of their retirement plans. Their retirement plans.
So we should plan for them early.
Yes, we cannot work
protection.
Yes, we cannot work for 10, 20, 30 years and then you retire into poverty. And then you become, and then you become a burden for the other youth that now are supposed to be building their retirement. But also for young women to take charge of these spaces, because I'm not seeing issues of young women being addressed. Look at the teenage pregnancies.
Don't even go there now.
It's alarming.
It's terrible.
How do I keep a job? You know, how is one secure of having job security as a young woman? How are they having marital security? Because we are seeing young women, they've gotten out of university, they're getting married at 22, 23, and at 40 they're telling her, you know what, Kwisha, without anything. She's leaving a home with only her bag, not even with the children, but she has spent all this time doing unpaid care work.
Yes.
How do we secure a woman that is home, a housewife, so that by the time she's 50, she's also ready to, to invest in her retirement?
So generally you're talking issues of income. Income. I read through the statement that is for the independence celebrations, and the government seems to accept that the greatest enemy right now we have is poverty. The fight against poverty. I don't know what new strategies government is going to employ in terms of addressing this concern.
But it's been the same narrative
what you're
for
putting
the last
across
40 years.
Yes. Yes, Remmie, your aspirations for Uganda.
Yes.
That's true.
Not only
Right now it's just
the
a
age
paper.
limit and everything, if we come back on that line, having a president for 2 years or 2 years, it's better.
Yes.
But because we don't have that, that's why we're suffering. I believe if someone is bad for the first 10 years, we can change that person.
Yes.
And the Constitution is training him from standing.
Yeah.
But with this one, we cannot tell when
True.
is Mzee going.
That's true. Constitutionalism and rule of law.
Maybe it's going to East Africa. In this program, we should also be looking at the East African region.
Yeah.
We are moving towards a one-year economy, apparently, according to the
federation.
Prime Minister, first Prime Minister. Honourable Kadaga is now first deputy Prime Minister. She's been on the media discussing the issue of East Africa a lot. Apparently, 2024, we are going to be having a one region currency. And hopefully, as soon as that comes in place, then the federation comes on board. So I think we need to look ahead, because it seems the discussion is now moving beyond Uganda. It is going to the region. there are benefits to that also, but are we ready for that conversation, Honourable Anna?
I think it's a welcome conversation.
Yeah.
Part of my undergraduate research was on the East African integration.
Yes.
And I was looking at the ESCJ. So I'm a firm believer in regional integration. However, I think we need a bare minimum or like a standard and a level at which we can integrate.
And also, yes, engage.
It could be an economic integration, a political integration. I think that, but I think that it is very important for us to set some benchmarks.
Yeah. And the time frame.
As countries, exactly, and which are really achievable. For example, when you look at our political and our democracies in these countries in East Africa, you realize we are all at different levels.
Yeah.
The narrative in Uganda is different from the one in Kenya. The one in Tanzania is very different.
Totally different.
How they all treat the opposition is very different. And whether you like it or not, these political dynamics affects the economy.
Yeah.
They greatly affect the economy. Yeah, if you can turn off the internet for a week in Uganda, what are you saying to investors who want to come and invest in our economy? Won't they just choose Kenya
To go.
exactly, because
They have
there are
always
things you
chosen
will not
Kenya,
do
probably.
in Kenya. You cannot do them. If your systems are so porous, like our country, our systems are so porous. Investors come here, they are defrauded. Where are the people defrauding them? In the security, in police, in CMI? That's a business they do. If the systems are so porous, then you're really not going to achieve what you want. But I think it's something we should look forward to. We have a lot to gain.
You have a lot to
as
gain.
a country, and maybe they can set for us the standard. I'm not saying it's the best, but frankly speaking, the Kenyan democracy it sets a better example, because you're not there for beyond 2 terms. So however good or however bad
Excellent you are.
in 10 years you have to leave.
That would be Remmie's prayer. I think we need to bring somebody to talk East African issues, because there's a lot that is not understood. There's a lot going on nevertheless, I think, at the East African region in terms of integration issues, political federation, and if you're careful to note, even in Uganda here, the shift now seems to be moving towards that. So I think President Museveni might still be around to see the federation happen.
Yeah, we pray he's around to see.
And even
we don't wish him bad.
Probably
we
too.
actually wish him long life. We just also wish that in his, the remaining part of his life, he can witness Uganda being governed by other leaders.
I'm not sure about witnessing, but also maybe participating in it. I don't know. That's a discussion for another day. I would like us ladies to wind up with this conversation of our participation in politics generally. Over time, since affirmative action has been put in place, we've oscillated around 35–34%. We have not moved,
It's
by the way.
our permanent
It
number.
is now permanent. And when you talk about the constituencies, the general councillor seats, the direct, we hardly have women there.
No.
So this whole number, 189 in Uganda here, the National Assembly, seems to be cosmetic, because we are not moving from there. And that grew because of the creation of the new districts. I think there's a lot that we need to do. I don't know what you are thinking.
Actually, the number of women in the directly elected seats in parliament has reduced from the last parliament.
From the last one.
I think there were about 19 in the last
They were around
parliament,
19 or 18. They are now 14. The last parliament,
so
they
reduced.
were 14. The other, they were 14. So what more can we do, ladies? I need you to answer that question, each one of you. What more do we need to see happening in Uganda to get more women? Yes. Maybe we start with you, Remmie. What more can you do? What more can women do?
By teaching them that these positions are not for men. In most cases, we leave those positions because we lack the courage, the confidence. So once we get that help, I think someone can come out and stand for that position, because they have that fear in them, that this position, I can't handle it. It's for men. Let me go for the women's seat only. And the women's seat, it's too big. In fact, women should shift. A constituency is too small.
It's too small.
The money you're using for a district, I think it's very much that you can at least adjust and make a constituency, and you take over that.
Yes. Yes. Anna, why didn't you contest in the direct seat?
Well, she spoke about sensitization, and I think I should have made it important. Okay, there are so many reasons I went for that woman's seat. Also to try and prove a point for many young unmarried girls. Because you know, for long it's been the reserve of older unmarried women.
Yes.
So I needed to also make that point that this is not just for only older and married women. That's why I insisted that I should go for it.
There are certainly reasons why people choose.
But I think that when she spoke about sensitization, I thought so much, maybe we should sensitize the women candidates, the women, and then have them also sensitize the people who they are seeking to lead, and say that if, just because it's called woman MP, it doesn't mean that other seats are for males. But that also I can lead you at the constituency level, and it is okay because I can do exactly what the man does.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, because you know, many women that have tried to go for the directly elected seats face so much backlash from the population, because they tell you, go to the one for women.
For women.
It still happens. Yes, it still happens.
Don't come to the one for what? For men. So this is a conversation that rightfully belongs with our voters. Yes. So, but you see, the ambassadors and the champions of it would be the women themselves who want to contest. So if you have to be deliberate. You know, you have to be deliberate and go down there and you tell them that I'm a constituency MP. What is wrong with that? Yes. When you have a girl and a boy in your home, aren't you going to give them
Have
some
you actually
opportunities, things
noticed
like that?
where there is a strong woman and they stand in a constituency, such questions will not be raised by the population? If we have the example of Salam stood as an LOC 5 chairperson, but again she came back and stood with the Kadaga. But nevertheless, I think there are reasons why people choose the different seats. But with this space now and this time, what we are saying is that we should encourage more women.
Yeah, we should encourage women.
I
personally wanted to go for the constituency seat, but I felt that I needed to be an example so often cited by many young women that would go for District woman MP seats, so that it doesn't have to be for people who are older than 40 or older than 50. It doesn't have to be for people who are married and have families. Because this is for long, that had been the narrative, you know. Yeah, you grow up. When I first started in Soroti, one of my older uncles came to me and told me, you need to go and do work, your legal work, then come back after your children have grown, you're married, you also have a way to show you're responsible. Yeah, I said, that's your measure of responsibility, okay. You will have to vote me even without me. And I was deliberate. I said I have to finish this election without even getting married. So that they know they elect me when I'm not married.
Wow.
And I am an example, yes.
Wow.
But we
Resilience.
also need to build visibility. We need to show the women. I've said you cannot be what you've not seen. We need to build visibility of those women that have stood on those seats and have won, even those that have not gone through, and document their stories.
So important.
Yes.
I love that so much.
Yes.
And I think every sub-region would have, like us in Teso sub-region, Veronica Erago was a directly elected MP
woman.
for Kabremaido County. And she's elderly, and it's such a good example.
Yes, to
I
many.
like that.
So we need to also teach the women, apart from sensitization, teach the women what they need to do.
Yes.
Because you find that
important.
you find that women are saying, let me go for that woman's seat, but they don't know what they need to do to beat the men here.
Honestly speaking, if you put a woman and a man together to ask for a vote, the woman would be more pleasant and appealing.
Yes.
And remember, most of the voters are women. Even in constituencies, if you go and you and touch the heart of your women and identify with your women, they are even stronger and they are more, because you see, all these men know that whoever wins the women's vote has won the day.
Yeah.
So if you go and you say, I'm going to identify with the
you
women
here in this constituency,
women only, you can actually win a male candidate.
The issues that affect the women.
I would like to hear the Ntungamo issue
experience.
With
Kabasharia, standing against a very powerful minister then, of course.
Yeah.
I think also the other issue that people need to know is that women are very effective
Yeah.
when they are voted.
Yeah.
Actually, more than men, because
Yeah.
women are doing double work. But the reason why we need to push more women out is the size of the constituency. You spend much more time, more resources. Although women actually have proven, research is already existing, that women are very effective when they're elected women,
Yes.
members of parliament. So we need to build our story, talk more about it, and encourage more women.
Yeah.
Ladies, I would like us to wind up. It's been
a lovely,
discussion.
I wish we could speak forever and ever.
Then you'll come
I've
back.
loved this and
You will
I'll
avail your
definitely
time
be
to
back.
come back. So maybe we just want to say bye to the listeners, the viewers. Just one item, one thing that you can say, and you know, we wind up from there. One last comment, Remmie.
Actually, what I wanted to bring to attention is, at this moment, for me, I'm sensitizing my women. Today, if you're a women leader, next time you should be on a direct and relieve other women. So that will give us space.
affirmative
That's
action.
what I'm doing at this moment.
Okay.
Yes.
And she is a deputy women's leader,
That's powerful.
National Unity
We need to
Platform
be
Party. At her
deliberate.
age, how old is that?
28.
28. And I think majority of the politicians coming from the new party are very young. We need to do a study. The youth movements happening across the country, the impact and what we can learn
There's
from
only
them.
one position we have not replaced in this country. We keep putting young people elsewhere. There's only one that is remaining.
Okay. Yes, Becky.
I hope that we build a cadre of young women leaders that can stand and challenge the status quo up to even that position you are saying, but it might bring us problems.
That one is like, don't start.
Who will advance the rights and the needs of their fellow women who are passionate and are committed to advancing women's needs
Wherever
and
they are.
wants. Come rain, come sunshine. Yeah, thank you.
Wow. I hope you are not suggesting that we front a candidate for presidential election, because the woman would understand us more and the country's challenges, as we have argued in this show.
Why not? Why not? Because why not? Because we've had women try in all these previous elections. Yeah, we had Betty Kamya, we had Nancy Kalembe. I think that if these strong parties could have women at the helm of
even just contesting for party president,
it would do us well. Yeah, well, thank you very much to our listeners this afternoon. It's been a pleasure being here with you, Monica, and Becky and Remmie. It's been an honor to be here to share my story. I feel that every woman has such beautiful potential. You know, the way God made women and the place that He has given them is so powerful. It's so powerful, society. And we can change so many things. We can actually change everything. We just need to be courageous, and we need to be bold, and we need to hold each other's hands.
Wow.
And make sure that we get to where we want to be. Other than that, thank you so much to your viewers. Your viewers need to subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button. I personally subscribe to this, so every time you upload a new episode, I'm on my phone.
Wow.
Who was there today? What were they saying?
Okay, that is Anna Adeke for you, emphasizing the point of being bold as women, courageous and strong, and taking our place in these positions. That's the reason why we are bringing you this program. We are creating space for engagement, and we want to see more women, those that we have not, actually who have not been known or who have not engaged with the media greatly. There are so many women whose stories are so powerful that we need to share, and this space is going to be dedicated for that. So I would like to encourage women, let's use this space and also like and share to many women that are out there that we can inspire. Yes, we shall be talking great things in this show, bringing highly effective women, people that can inspire, and not just here in Uganda, but across the region. I think for today, we are going to sign up from there, and to thank you so much, my guests, Remmie on the other side, Juna, this one is always here. I can always pick her up. The Honourable had to sacrifice her time this afternoon, being in the house, being here with you, viewers and us. So I would like to thank her, and to thank you for watching us, for liking and sharing our stories. It is going to be better and bigger. Thank you for connecting this afternoon. Until we meet you again next Saturday, we shall be here every Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m., sharing exceptional stories, inspiring you, and also informing you in different ways. I've been your host, Monica Moding. Till we meet again next weekend, I'll be bringing you somebody very, very exceptional. I know that you need to look forward to the next show on Saturday. Bye-bye. Shalom.